When I started doing this series of videos, to be honest with you, I never really thought about doing this type of video. Um, but recently, in the last kind of week or so, people have been sending me in emails and they've been asking me a question regarding what really is the difference between working from home now and working from home before the coronavirus. Because a lot of people kind of are saying, well, quite a lot of people have been working remotely for years, so what's the big deal? Well, to be honest with you, the big deal is immense. The difference is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. There is absolutely no doubt that the difference between now and what would have happened prior to the coronavirus is incredible for lots of reasons. Let me just kind of think about it for a second. I started working from home originally in about 1994. The amazing thing about it in them days, that was way before the internet, so I didn't have to worry about Wi-Fi. But on my desk, in my bedroom, I literally had a laptop, which really wasn't a laptop like today's. It was probably about this size. And then with that, then I would have had a fax machine and printer. And that would have been it. That would have been my office setup. So I used to be able to work from home quite effectively in them days. Now, there is a big difference. What are the differences that people are asked to do now? A lot of people are now having to work from home and do other things. They're having to work from home, they're having to look after the children, they're having to school the children, they're having to try and manage the children, they're having to try and find quiet time to get things done, having to manage their priorities, manage interruptions, manage everything. It's so difficult. I remember, back in 1994, when I started working from home, we had 7 children. So it's a lot of children. But between the hours of 9 till 3, when most of the children would have been at school, it wasn't that bad. It was easy. I could get lots of stuff done. In fact, I had very, very few interruptions. Everything was fine. I'd get a lot of work done. But let me tell you, once 3 o'clock came, and all of a sudden the children be coming running into the office, daddy this, daddy that, daddy the other, then it's a totally different thing. Now, you and people like you, and many people like you, are expected to do that from 8 o'clock in the morning, from 9 o'clock in the morning, from all of these times. And it really, really is not simple. Not only are you asked to do that from 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning, but you might be sitting at the kitchen table. You might be sitting in your sitting room doing this. You may be sitting at one end of the couch and your partner working from home on the other end of the couch. Your partner might be at the kitchen table as well. Your children might be at the kitchen table. All of these things have an impact on how we work now compared to what it would have been prior to this. And to be honest with you, I do not have all the answers. But what I'm going to try and do now is put together 5 things that I think may, if there's anything you can take from this, may help you. But anyway, here are the 5 steps going forward that hopefully may be able to help you. Step number 1, act like you're going to work. I know this sounds silly, but act like you're going to work. And what I mean by acting like there's a typical thing of working from home now, phone going off when I try to deal with this. So act like you're going to work. Act as if you're going to work, act as if you're going, start your day, have a working plan that you need to work to, have a to-do list, a good strong to-do list, prioritize from that to-do list, put an action plan together from that to-do list, and set yourself some goals for the day. So point number 1, what are the first things we've got to try and do when we're working from home now with the coronavirus is act like we're going to work. Number 2, get dressed for work. Well, I call it dress for success. I can assure you that any time that I start work in a tracksuit or anything like that, or start work without a to-do list, it doesn't really work. I knew a guy many years ago, even before 1994, who used to work from home, and he worked as a senior manager with a bank. I won't mention the bank, but he used to actually get dressed every morning and actually put a suit on. Now, I'm not asking you to do that. He'd put his suit on, he'd work from 9 till 10:30, he'd have his coffee break at 10:30 for 15 minutes, he'd then work till 1 o'clock, he'd have his time off then, etc. And he was extremely disciplined, and he was ready for work and he was dressed for work. And it does make a difference if you dress for work. The third thing is to try and treat it like your own business. See it as your own business. If this was your own business, how would you try and manage your day? What could you possibly do? What are the things that are important? What are the key things that you want to get done today if it was your business? So if that's the case, then try and do that. The fourth thing is, and I know this sounds silly, but stay in touch. This whole isolation thing, particularly with work colleagues, has become very difficult. So you need to find ways, whether it be through meetings or whether it just be through kind of, WhatsApp chats, or whether it be through Google Hangouts, or whether it be through MS Meetings, or whether it be through Zoom or whatever. It's important to try and keep in contact with your colleagues, because working on your own is very, very difficult at times. I thought of an idea there the other day. Think about the idea of having a lunch, a Zoom lunch or something like that all together. When you're in the canteen of your office, you're having a bit of fun, you're having a bit of chat, etc., etc. So why not once a week with your colleagues is to set up a Zoom or something like that and have lunch together. Obviously you in your kitchen, them in their kitchen, but have a chat, not about work, but have that bit of fun over the computer screens for the hour of the lunchtime or whatever, just to feel that you're not being isolated. And I suppose the fifth thing, if it's all too much, then you need to talk to somebody. I know that lots of companies nowadays are saying, look, we don't mind whether you work 9 to 5 or whether we work in the evening, or we don't mind that. Well, that's fine. But at the end of the day, the reality is, if somebody is looking after children and they have to start their work at 7 o'clock, that's in the evening. That's not simple either. So, okay, well done for them companies saying they don't care whether you work from 9 to 5, but still, it's not easy on people that are minding children in areas like that. The other thing that I will say to you is, when you are working from home now, this is really important. Don't consider the hours you work, but consider the productivity. Always work on the productivity as opposed to the hours when you're working from home, and that may well help you. But at the end of it all, if you are really finding it very difficult, then you need to have that conversation with your boss. So what do you need to do to have that conversation with your boss? Well, there's a few things. Number one, you need to think about what you want to say. You need to say it specifically, and you need to say it clearly. Your body language, even though they might not be able to see you because it may be on a telephone, but it has to match the words you're saying. You need to be clear in what you're trying to say. It's not a case of turning around to your boss and saying, look, I don't want to do this, I can't do this, I can't do that. You've got to look at what are the options and how can you do things. The other thing is, don't allow yourself to be sidetracked or manipulated. Don't allow a situation where somebody says, yeah, but it's only for a short time, we have to get this done, etc., etc. Boom, 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 you just have to stick with it, etc. Try and manage these things and look at the various options. So it is important. So again, finally, the 5 things that may help you. Number 1, just act like you're going to work. Number 2, dress for success. Number 3, treat it like it's your own business. Number 4, set up and keep in contact with colleagues, even on a social basis, by Zoom over lunchtimes or something. Think of ways of doing these things. And then number 5, if it is too much, then find a way of bringing that out into the open and talking. Because most companies now obviously understand we're in a very, very difficult situation. So to get back to the original question, is it different? It's massively different. Anyway, please tune in to any other videos I may have coming up, and stay safe.